Non-binary listeners, ladies and gentlemen, heroes and heroines, crooks and crookians, amigos and amigas, familia and squad, Desiree, the audio performance you are about to enjoy discusses casinos and gambling. We do not recommend gambling with money you cannot afford to lose or that is needed to pay bills. If you have a gambling problem, contact your problem gambling hotline. If you do not know how to contact your problem gambling hotline, send an email to help@casinocombat.com. We will find that number for you and provide it to you. Our hosts' past performances are not indicative of anyone's future results, including his own. All materials presented here are based on actual facts. Names and dates are changed to protect the innocent and the guilty. Some events, unrelated outcomes, may be omitted in the interest of brevity and clarity. The contents of this podcast are the property of Volcanic Dingo, LLC. All rights are reserved. It's me, it's TRG, the Ramblin Gambler, just trying to make a living and doing the best I can.
Lyrics, dude. Recite him some lyrics.
Actually, you know what? Sorry, let's just hold off on the lyrics for a minute. Let's do the battle plan, then some around the Casino Combat Galaxy stuff, and then the lyrics. I actually want to spend a minute on those lyrics, so let's kind of change the order up here. So, welcome to episode 180 of our Casino Combat podcast, episode 180 episodes. Indeed, welcome to episode 180 of our Casino Combat podcast. That's just amazing. We're closing in on 200 very, very, very quickly. In fact, we're probably a little closer because we had some extra bonus episodes thrown in there back in the 150s. If this is your next time, welcome back. And as always, thank you for the gift of your time. If this is your first time, if you did a search or saw a tile on your device and thought, what the heck, I'm going to give this a try. Thank you for taking the risk. We truly appreciate it. And today is your very, very lucky day. With that one click, in that one moment of pressing play, you just gained access to one of the best resources any serious gambler could ever have access to. And I am being immodest, but that is not hyperbole. That is not exaggeration. Those are just facts backed up by data. With that one small action on your part, you gained access to me, to this podcast, and to the squad of listeners who support this podcast. You now have friends that will happily meet you in Atlantic City. There is a good chance that if you are going to Las Vegas, there will be other listeners there as well that would love to hang out with you. There is an entire network of people in and around this podcast who are craps players and will show up to play craps with you. You now have the ability to contact me and be booked into comped hotel rooms and on comped cruises all across the world. I'm very serious. That is a real offer. Just by virtue of the fact that you listen to this episode, I will be happy to take care of your comps in a whole variety of casinos and resorts across North America on almost any cruise ship that has a casino. Just email me, trg@casinocombat.com. Spell combat with a K, and I'll be happy to act as your casino host. As I said, at hundreds of properties on hundreds of cruise ships. That's all free of charge. That's all just what comes with being a listener to this podcast. And that offer is not just for high rollers. That offer is not just for people playing big bucks with big backgrounds. That's not just for people playing thousands of dollars or tens of thousands of dollars a hand. We can usually find comps that fit almost any gambling budget or bankroll. Not only do we have your comps covered, but myself and the listeners to this podcast have created and tested a variety of proven wagering techniques that will allow you to win the game of casino gambling. So if this is your first time, If this is your very first time, you are truly welcome. We are truly happy to have you here, and you are invited to enjoy all the benefits that go along with being part of our squad. Find me somewhere else, somewhere else on the internet that provides you with all of those benefits, with all of that value, with that technique, with that training, with that network of friends and squad mates, with the availability of comps for any level of gambling for the low price of free. Well, almost free. You may hear a commercial or two. Somewhere along the line, I may pick up a penny to keep the lights on, the studio warm and heated, those other little things that are necessary here in parts unknown, but money out of your pocket to me can be zero. And if you want to send a tip, that's fine too. If you make a lot of money from what you heard here and you want to send a tip, go on PayPal. Once again, trg@casinocombat.com, spell combat with a K. I am always happy to take tips, but the required admission fee to be part of our squad is the low price of $0. Every episode, I put together a little something I like to call the battle plan, the segments we're going to have on the episode. For episode 180, we are going to start out with a Questions My Sons Ask segment. I've been asked about bankroll size and bankroll calculations by a couple of members of the Excelsior Brigade recently, that elite group of skilled gamblers that have managed to listen to clues from early episodes of this podcast and determine the real-world name of my home casino, Casino 2, located 2.5 hours south and east of my home here in parts unknown. So since I've received that same question twice, I will share my thoughts and answers on that question today, and I am going to be super transparent in a way beyond what I normally am, because I really want to be clear on this for everyone. Then, we're going to have a moment of casino wisdom and revisit a wisdom and the impact it had on my recent trips and travels. Then we're going to have a Core Koncepts segment. And yes, on this outline, Koncepts is spelled with a K, of course. We are going to do in that segment, we're going to use 3 different blackjack tables at the plaza on Fremont Street to look at evaluating the house advantage on a blackjack game and how to select the best available table. I just spent most of a week in 2 different parts of the country at 2 different sets of gambling locations, so we will have a travel segment to talk about those places, spaces, and outcomes. Then we will finish up in the virtual VIP lounge and with what will be a very quick set of sips and a story about a recent visit to my local casino and how confidence and knowledge created an increased tier score for the visit. There we go. That's the battle plan, and we are going to be very, very busy in this episode. This is a very, very heavy stack of paper I got right here in my hands that we are going to try to cover today. So let's get going. Let's get started. What is going on in the Casino Combat Galaxy as it spins through the TRG-verse? First up, always big news, always the biggest of big news. We have a new member of the Excelsior Brigade, Sergeant Summit, a listener, a cruiser, and we are finding out a skilled Ultimate Texas Hold'em player that is bringing more knowledge about that game into the squad. Great addition to the squad, great person to have involved. The Excelsior Brigade, with us in the virtual VIP lounge on Slack. Always a joy to add members to the Excelsior Brigade. And speaking of the Excelsior Brigade, as I said, I was out in Las Vegas recently at the plaza on Fremont Street. A couple of members of the Excelsior Brigade were in town the same time I was. I got to meet and spend some time chatting in person with No Way Dude, and I played some blackjack with Riptide Halfling. And while we were playing blackjack, he shared that his trip to Las Vegas was only the 3rd time in his life playing blackjack with real money. And he's using good old TRG1, the one, the only. And when he got home, he shared his results from his trip with me. He left Las Vegas with a profit before expenses of 3 days' pay. Now, I always come back in these open segments, in these show open segments, I always come back to if this is your first time. Well, if this is your first time, there is your proof that this works. Going to Las Vegas and leaving with a profit from gambling is an amazing accomplishment that many people never achieve, or they achieve it because they happen to drop $3 in a slot machine and hit some amazing jackpot, and they make sure they take that jackpot home. But not a lot of people in their gambling career go and play blackjack in Las Vegas and leave with a profit. And to do that with relatively minimal experience is absolutely an amazing accomplishment. That Riptide Halfling, with only a few attempts under his belt, arrived with the skills and knowledge acquired here and left with a profit is absolutely an amazing accomplishment. So well done, RTH. Well done. Absolutely amazing. And thanks for validating that what is taught here is actual casino skills and abilities, things that translate into money in your pocket if you can learn and execute what is taught here. In other squad news, Guardian and the Jet have not checked in. The Legends of Lehigh are nowhere to be found, but that is their loss. They are missing out because the next Casino Combat Blackjack cruise is a reality. This summer, we sailed on MSC's Meraviglia out of New York City. We enjoyed a welcome party with food and drinks in the Sky Lounge on the ship. We enjoyed complimentary cocktails in the casino the entire trip, not just while we were playing, but at the casino bar anytime the casino was open. We had a private blackjack table just for ourselves, a squad blackjack tournament, an absolute blast of a good time, and left the ship with plenty of the casino's money in our pockets. So, of course, they invited us back again. What else do casinos do? We go, we take their money, and they say, hey, come back again, come stay again, come eat some more meals, come see some more shows. The ship is leaving New York City early this summer, so we're going to go back one more time and enjoy the ship before it leaves. March 15th, 2026. Save the date, March 15th, 2026. You are invited to join myself, Mrs. TRG, Inner Circle member, East Coast Emissary, PhD, his lovely wife, Atlantic City Empress, and many other members of the squad on a comped cruise for 7 nights. Let's pause. Let's think about that. What I just said there is very literally true. Let me run it back. March 15th, 2026. If you are listening to my voice and it is not yet March of 2026, you are invited. Very literally with these words, I am inviting you. If you are listening, I've just given you a comped 7-night cruise with me and my friends who want to be friends of yours. I did. I very literally just did. I gave you a complimentary cruise. The cruise is comped. The taxes and fees are comped. You will have amazing new friends on the cruise with you. You will pay a deposit of $300 to $400 depending on the cabin you are assigned. But other than providing your own transportation, there are no other costs to be on this cruise. And, bonus, I said there was a deposit, there is. But when the ship sails and the casino opens, the casino cage will give you back your deposit in either free slot play or promotional casino chips. They're really just asking for your first buy-in as a deposit to make sure they don't assign you a cabin and then you go, oh, it didn't cost me anything, I'm not going, and the ship leaves without you. Your first buy-in as a deposit refunded to you when the ship sails and the casino opens. Think about that. Seriously, if this is your first time listening to me, if this is your first time hearing my voice, what other podcast says to you in the first, checking the time, in the first 15 minutes, I got it in on time, what other podcaster says, oh, by the way, send me an email, I'll comp you a cruise. Well, I just did that, and I can back that up. Email me. I'll get some basic information about you as a person and a player. You will join us on the cruise. It's as simple as that. Done deal. Yours just for the asking. And if you are thinking that's absurd, you're thinking that's outrageous, it's a trick. It's a trap. It's a scam. This guy calling himself TRG is going to rip me off. He's going to steal my identity. Fair. Very fair. I mean, It is too good to be true that you could listen to a podcast about gambling and get a free gambling cruise. That does sound too good to be true. If I didn't know me, I wouldn't believe me. I mean, I get it, but I'm not trying to scam you. I am not trying to rip you off. I am trying to invite you to do something really amazing. And you don't have to trust me, this voice you don't know, this guy on your speakers, in your earbuds. You can go to the Casino Combat Squad Facebook group and ask the group. Ask them, do you know this TRG guy? Is he for real? Have any of you ever met him? Have any of you been on a cruise with him? And plenty of people will confirm that the offer I just made to you is real. It's not a scam. I work for a real company, a licensed hosting company, Premier Casino Hosting. You can Google them. You can call them. You can email them. You can ask if they know TRG and if he can really comp you a cruise. And my bosses will confirm everything I just said. I told you when I started this show open segment that this podcast was an amazing free resource for anyone wanting to win the game of casino gambling, and I meant it. It's true, it's damn true, and I can prove it. If you would like to go on a comped cruise with me and with our squad, just send me an email, trg@casinocombat.com. Spell combat with a K. I will get some basic information from you by sending you an onboarding form. Onboarding, see what I did there? I'll send you a form. You'll send me some basic information that the cruise line requires. We will get you a cabin assigned. You will be on that cruise with us March 15th, 2026, out of New York City. As hard to believe as it might be, it is just as easy as that. All right, enough about the cruise. I feel like I'm missing something.
Lyrics, dude. Recite him some lyrics.
That's right. Lyrics. We didn't do lyrics yet. I got all wound up there. Sorry. We didn't do lyrics. Casino Wisdom. I wanted to talk about this one. I really did. We do lyrics almost every episode now, but this one really hits with me in an interesting way, and I wanted to talk about it for a minute. Casino Wisdom number 81 is very, very simple. One of my favorite wisdoms. ABC, always be casinoing. Well, one of the ways that I am always casinoing is that I pay attention to song lyrics and try to find ways that they might be related to gambling, that they might be inspirational to me, motivational to me. I was walking out of a local horse track last week, and the lyrics of a very, very unlikely song, You Gotta Be by Desiree, struck me as perfect for folks who listen to this podcast. Here are the lyrics. See if they hit you the same way. If you've been around a while, I bet these lyrics sound like exactly the kind of coaching TRG would give you every day of the week and twice on Sunday. Pardon me if I take just a couple of minor liberties with the lyrics to make my point. Here are the lyrics. I think these sound like exactly things that I would teach you and exactly the things that I value in my life, in my gambling. Here we go. Herald what your mother said. Read the books your father read. Try to solve the puzzles in your own sweet time. Some may have more cash than you. Others have a different view. Stand up and be counted. Don't be ashamed to try. You got to be bad. You got to be bold. You got to be wiser. You got to be hard. You got to be tough. You got to be stronger. You got to be cool. You got to stay calm. You got to stay together. Think about that. Doesn't that sound like me? Listen to your mother, read books. Solve the puzzles for yourself in your own time. Others will have more money. Others will have different ideas. Be bad. Well, Mitch won't like that, but be bad, be bold, be wise, be hard, be tough, be strong, be cool, be calm, stay together. There you go. There you absolutely go. Me and a few lyrics, me and a few stanzas. Motivating lyrics from an unlikely song and an unlikely source. Let's get started with our battle plan. Let's do questions my sons ask.
What?
My sons have been around gambling most of their life, so they ask questions about gambling. Listeners ask questions about gambling, and Excelsior Brigade members Lucky Drunk and founding Excelsior Brigade member Same Bet recently asked me my thoughts on bankroll size. Same Bet was actually in the Fred section of the website looking for a download and couldn't find one. So today, Let me run down my thoughts very, very transparently as I have ever been. Let me run down my thoughts. So let me run down my thoughts on bankroll size from both a beginner's point of view and at a more advanced level. And after we're done, T-Rex and Kismet will turn this segment into a transcript and make that transcript into a blog post, and we'll put it to on the website. So if you want to read through it, if you're someone who learns from reading, not from listening, we'll make that resource available as well. I don't think, if you need it to be a PDF, you can copy and paste from there, but we will get a written version of this on the website for all of eternity so that it's always there. It's always something that can be found. Let's start with the beginner answer and work from there. And here we're going to work in unit size. We're not going to work in dollar amounts. Whatever your unit size is going to be, do the math as I describe it here. If you do the math as I describe it here and you go, no, that's too much money, I can't afford to put that at risk, well, you need to find a different game, or you need to find a different casino, or you need to find a different set of money, or the point I'm not making is not if you can't play, you need to find a way to play bigger. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is apply this in units to an amount of money you're comfortable with. And if you're not comfortable, don't do this. As I said, beginner advice, and to just follow that thought, and this is not in my outlines, but if you walk into a casino and your unit size in your brain and your bank account and your pockets, your unit size for blackjack needs to be $5, and the only tables you see are at $25, you know this math won't work. You should not play. You should walk away. Or you should realize that maybe blackjack is not your game on this building. Maybe electronic blackjack is your game, where you can get a lower unit size. Or maybe bubble craps is your game, and you're going to still do TRG2, always be grinding from episode 62 and 63. You're still going to do that. You're just going to do it on the don't pass line. Most buildings will have some way to accommodate the unit size that is right for you. And as a beginner, I can't emphasize enough, one path to failure as a beginner is to do this math and conclude that your unit size needs to be $10, and then to walk into a building and see that you can't play $10 as a unit size and throw all TRG's math out the window and go ahead and play what they have offered. That is the road to failure, because these numbers are built on the around the idea of long-term success. So here we go. Let's start with the beginner answer, as I said, and work from there. You're going to a casino for the first time. It's a short drive, and this visit is just for a part of a day. You're going to play Baccarat as your game of choice, a game with a very low house advantage. Your goal is to win 8 units and leave. That's your small set amount. We are going to use TRG2, always be grinding, as your wagering system with progressive and regressive ideas built into it. As I said, taught in episode 62 and 63, we are following the core concepts here. What is your bankroll of money appropriate to the wager you have decided to make, which is $10? I'm a beginner, and my starting bankroll for the visit should be 30 units. That's 3 table buy-ins of 10 units each. Unit size of $10 for 10 units for the table. If we're going to do this at $10, that's $100, right? If we're going to do that at $1,000, and I want the ability on this visit to do that 3 times. You may not need all of those units. In an ideal world, you reach your 8-unit profit with the first buy-in, you leave the table, you leave the building, you had success. But if you don't reach an 8-unit, maybe you have a 4-unit win stack, and the hands end up on player 7 hands in a row while you are betting bank, and you leave the table with a 4-unit loss. You have a 26-unit bankroll, enough for 2 more 10-unit buy-ins, plenty of opportunity for a recovery, plenty of opportunities for a table where it's 7 bank in a row and you have a profit and you leave. If lots of negative exits happen and you reach a moment where your trip bankroll is less than 10 units, you are done. And this is sadly a losing trip and it's time to go home. And if that really was your first time, I would want you to have the money you can afford to lose and not need to pay bills available to make 2 more attempts the same way. So simple math. To start your gambling journey, I'd want you to have a trip bankroll of about 30 units. And your total bankroll should be 90 units. And I would expect you to have success over time and to start receiving offers for comps and gifts. That's my experience. Most casinos where I play. Simple, easy, beginner stuff. And to extend that logic at a beginner level, if you're going to go on an overnight trip, I'd advise you to plan things out. You're going to arrive at about 3 p.m. You're going to play a session before dinner. That's 1 buy-in. After dinner, you're going to play a session, maybe go to a comedy club or a musical performance, and then play another session. And the next day, you're going to play a session, have brunch, and play a final session and head out. 5 sessions over that visit. 5 sessions over that 2-day process. I would tell you to take the buy-in for the first 3 sessions with you in cash and be able to withdraw 2 more sessions worth of money from an ATM if things happen to start out very, very poorly in your first several sessions. At a beginner level, if you add days, you want to add to the money you walk in with and to the money you can pull out of an ATM comfortably to continue to play. You hope you don't have to, but you're prepared to if you need to. That's the beginner plan. That works. I know it works because I did it for years and years and years and years. If you decide you're going to add in using TRG3, the meta martingale, if that's going to be a part of your plan, that's episode 64, by the way, if you want a good look at the meta martingale, TRG3. If you want to understand that bankroll and buy-in strategy, that's where you listen. But if you're going to do that, your single visit amount is 10 units, plus 20 units, plus 40 units. 70 units instead of 30 units for a total of 3 buy-ins, and that same 70 units available 2 more times sitting at home or in a bank. Obviously a much larger number, and you're going to get more consistency in positive outcomes, but you're going to take more risk. You're going to put more capital at risk, and I will tell you from experience, and other members of the squad will tell you from experience, it doesn't happen very often that you do meta martingale and get smacked twice in a row. But it happens and it hurts. It's a tough one to take. The occasional time it does happen. I think it's happened to me once, maybe twice. No more than twice, but it's not fun. So from there, having talked through the beginner stuff, let's talk real numbers today. I'm going to be really, really transparent and really, really specific and really, really detailed on my personal behavior. The night the government closed the casinos in my state at the start of the pandemic lockdown, I cashed out a small profit for that day from the blackjack table and went home and locked $1,300 in the safe in an envelope marked final bankroll. I had some additional money in the safe and in a bank account available by ATM from previous wins. Let's call it another $1,500. I was playing TRG2, always be grinding at a $25 unit size. So that's bets ranging from $25 to $75. Mrs. TRG was playing a $15 unit size with bets between $15 and $35 max at that moment in her life. Almost all of that action was on blackjack tables, occasionally on a baccarat table, maybe once in a while. And we were also doing slot play using the tactics from the Casino Combat Slot Tactics ebook, specifically TRG slot tactic El Numero Dos. As part of that pandemic journey, we discovered that our common practice of me carrying our bankroll as a couple of $1,300 and us always playing together at the same table in the same place wasn't working in a more restricted pandemic environment. It didn't work as well for us as a couple as it had historically. And $400 in winnings were moved into Mrs. TRG's casino purse so that if we were separated, she had enough money for slot play and a table buy-in for her without me being present. So that's $1,700 of walking around money and another $1,500-ish in money available if needed. And that's 2 people. The blackjack table buy-in would have been a total of $400. So 3 buy-in totals and a bit of extra cash for slots. If we went to Casino 1 for 2 nights, that was enough. We rarely needed to hit the ATM. If we made that 5.5-hour drive south and west to the Great Caesars property with a stop at the Penn Gaming or the Boyd property along the way, that was enough money. Listen to those first several years of the podcast. We are playing as a couple almost every weekend. I am playing as an individual once or twice a week. And we played on that money for the first several years of the podcast. You could make the argument that we are still playing on that money today. And Mrs. TRG is now a green chip player making bets from $25 to $65. I regularly play an 86 rapier with bets as large as $100 a hand. Same walking around bankroll. A bit more money available from the ATM if needed. A bit more money in the safe, but rarely needed. The numbers were not that much different when I was doing a full meta martingale on a daily basis. I'd walk in with $1,000 to use at a $25 unit size. That's a first table buy-in of $250. That's a $500 buy-in at the second table. And if that went fully south and I didn't manage a profit, $1,000 pulled out of the ATM for the third buy-in. As I said, I'm currently playing an 86 rapier and using regrouping to get back to my full buy-in. If I get to tier 2 and recover, I just start the process all over. I don't play tier 2 to get to a positive exit after recovery. I just play for recovery. If you are not familiar with rapier, if you're going, what's this rapier thing he's talking about? Rapier is a buy-in structure. It's a complex structure that needs to be shown. I have hours of content on this, and I have just started adding it to the Spotify video subscription channel that we're running. All of the rapier content over the course of the next few days is going to be available. So if you've never learned rapier, if you've never learned how to apply rapier, we've done a lot of testing now. We've been over a year of testing on this. We know it works. We know what it does. A lot of us play our versions of it in various ways. It is in the Spotify subscription service. Low cost, not a lot of money. Take a look. Learn this technique if you're interested. It is there. We are adding that into what we have available. When I leave to drive to the ship on 3/14/26, we will probably take $1,500 in my pocket and $500 in Mrs. TRG's pocket and expect to be fine playing blackjack, craps, and slot machines for a 7-night cruise. Clearly, that's a lot less bankroll than I laid out for you in the beginner model. That's a trip bankroll, not a total gamble forever bankroll. But how can that be so small? It almost doesn't feel right. That's for 2 players. Our starting blackjack buy-in is $500. If you're saying that can't be right, if you're saying, is that really right? It is. How do I know it's right? Because I've been doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it. I know that it works for us. That's experience. That's confidence. That's Mrs. TRG being very good at letting her wins run and keeping her losses very low. It is very, very rare, extremely rare for my wife to take a full 8-unit loss at a blackjack table. If she isn't winning, she leaves or takes a break or does something else. If she is winning, She grinds things out for as long as it takes. That's us knowing that our slot strategy will produce big wins from time to time over the course of play. That's knowing that when we need to hit the ATM, it will be rare, and that we almost always finish the trip with our original money back and that money going back in the ATM when we get home. Not always, not every time. A great example would be the Alaska cruise beat us up this year. Some money didn't go back in the ATM when we got back. Some money did have to come out of the safe to go on the next cruise. But we won money on the next cruise and on the cruise after that. That money won got put back where it needed to be to have the process continue to go forward. I am very comfortable with those numbers. In my mind, when we're getting ready to plan a trip, if we're getting ready to go on a charter to Atlantic City, if we're getting ready to drive somewhere for a couple nights, that's the money I want available. That money is almost always enough. Every once in a while, I remember the one time we went to Atlantic City and we walked in and we just got wrecked. Both of us at the same time, every possible bad thing happened. And we went, gosh, we aren't even in our room yet. Oh, let's go play a slot machine. Bam, smacked upside the head. Horrible, horrible. We went and played a little video poker and got a beer and lamented the fact that we hadn't even gotten to our room yet and we were really in a bad way. And we went to our room and we took money out of the ATM and we never had another losing table the rest of the trip. Couple tables later, all our money is back in our pockets. And a couple tables after that, we're starting to have a nice profit and the expenses have been covered. We never lost again on that trip. So I'm not saying that sometimes bad things don't happen at some point in the trip, but we're not making multiple ATM trips, a lot of stops. We're not doing that multiple times. So real world, that's the way we do things. That is as transparent, as open, as honest, as precise as I am capable of being in this moment. So let me then highlight one more thing. All of our bankroll isn't cash. Some of our bankroll is comps. On the Alaska cruise, we had a bunch of free slot play as part of our offer. When we went to Niagara Falls recently, we both received free slot play and free bets both days that we were there on the property, a property we had not been to in years and years and years and years. That money is part of the bankroll. There's no way to calculate it, right? There's no way to do math around what that's going to be for the month or for this or for that, but there is always money added by the casino to the money we walk in with. It's part of our bankroll provided by the casino as an appearance fee. The money won from that part of our bankroll gets added to our trip bankroll. We run this operation on a very lean budget from a bankroll and gambling point of view. And we do it successfully, so we know it's what we are capable of doing. So there you are. A look at my advice for a beginner, and then the most open, honest, and transparent real numbers I can give you about how we have played the entire time we've been doing this podcast. Let's go enjoy a moment of casino wisdom. Casino wisdom number 86 teaches us very simply, have allies. Casino wisdoms combine information or knowledge about how a casino works or players behave in a casino with an action to be taken in specific situations. Really, some of those you gotta be's we were talking about, right? You gotta be wise, you gotta be calm, you gotta stay together. Staying together is having allies. Staying together is not doing this on your own. And casino wisdoms are, you gotta be wise. In this particular casino wisdom, the knowledge here is that it's better to have a friendly relationship with the people running the casino. It's helpful to have other players tell you about table conditions, casino promotions, specials, or rule changes. And today I just wanted to quickly highlight a couple of examples of having allies or building allegiances, building relationships, however short, that were rather unique over the week of travel that I just did. I want to start with something that happened twice on Fremont Street, once at the Plaza and once at the D. In each case, I was playing blackjack early in the morning. Early morning blackjack on Fremont Street is a very casual thing. There are not a lot of people around. There are not a lot of players playing. There are a lot of dealers just standing around and doing nothing and not earning much in tips. So I'm playing, I'm chatting, I'm winning, I'm tipping. At the D, the dealer asks if I'm staying there, and I say, no, I'm staying at the Plaza for a few days, but I just wandered down because I like playing at the D, and the $25 table at the Plaza isn't open yet. I'm just going to play some cards, hit a slot machine, head back, have some breakfast. And so hearing that, she points to a pair of hot tamales machines at the end of the pit, and she says, the one on the right, not the one on the left, the one on the right, that pays out all day. She says, I told someone that last week and before I went on break, and I came back from break and the other dealer told me that he hit for over $500 and came back and tipped us $40. And so when I finished up and colored up, I was up a few bucks and I went over and played the hot tamales machine that she recommended. Not a machine that I would usually play. And sure enough, I hit a bonus fairly quickly. Steam came out of the guy's ears on the top of the machine, and I collected a positive exit and won, I don't know, $35, something like that, and I did what she was trying to do. What was her goal? Why was she being an ally? Why was she telling me about that machine? Because she told it to me with the story about the tip. She wanted to put it in my mind that if she was right, she should get a little piece of the action. And I made sure she did. That is how you have allies. That is how it works. She knew something about the property that I didn't know. Because every day for 8 hours a day, she's there watching what happens at the end of her pit. She knew that machine right there, the one on the right, always paid out. And she was hoping I would hear what she said. And if something good happened, I would come back and take care of her. And I did. Same thing happened at the Plaza in the evening. The dealer at the $25 table where I'm playing by myself points out a piñata party machine. Again, not a machine I would normally select and play. And she points to the two machines near the door and tells me the one closest to the door always pays out. People are always getting hand pays there. She was right. Now, I didn't get any hand pays, but several times during the rest of my stay, I stopped and played that machine and walked with a profit. And often there were people playing that machine. It was a high traffic machine right near the door. A lot of people will tell you those are the machines to look for. They want that machine going off so that people think there's winning happening in the building. She was right. I often looked up and saw people with the light flashing, getting a hand pay. I often saw people with bonuses in play going on. That was also a machine that my ally pointed out, and my ally was absolutely right and correct. It gave me a little extra money in my pocket. The second example of having allies that I want to talk about today is the value of having an ally in an independent casino host. And yes, I'm being less than humble here. Yes, I'm being less than modest here. Yes, I'm telling you that I and the company that I work for, the company that I am so fortunate to work for, can do something for you, and it will do something for us in the process, obviously. But listen to this. Listen to the benefit of these folks being an ally to me and my wife and my friends. In my case, my bosses at Premier Casino Hosting are tremendous allies. This past spring, some listeners contacted me and said they were going to be in Colorado and there were a couple casinos there. Could I set up anything for them? They were looking for a casino rate. Rates in the area were a little high. They're casino people. They were hoping maybe I could do something and help them out. And so I collected the information and said I would submit the request to a property that we have a contract with in that area. And my thought, like theirs, based on how they described their play, was that the request would probably come back with a casino rate, with a discount. Well, the request came back fully comped and included admission to enjoy the VIP lounge on the property during their stay, which was not just a beer and pretzels lounge, it was actually a lounge with hot food served all throughout the day. That is a great illustration of a valuable ally. I played a lot of my career without the ability to make a phone call, send a text, send an email, and say, hey, I'm going to be in Kansas City. Hey, I'm going to be in New Orleans. Hey, I'm going to be in middle of nowhere, West Virginia. Never been there. Can you set up a comp? And have a comp get set up. I played most of my career without the ability to go, hey, I decided I'd like to go on a cruise somewhere out of Florida. I'd like to go for 7 or 8 nights. What can we do? And have that be comped. That is a tremendous ally to have in your corner. And as I said in the show open, I'm thrilled to be that ally for you if you're listening to my voice. Let me give you another similar illustration. Let me give you another similar example. Mrs. TRG and Lady Mac have been friends for a very long time, all the way back to the beginning of their teaching careers. Lady Mac and her husband, Professor Porsche, have been gradually exploring how we travel on our gambling. They enjoyed a Royal Caribbean cruise with us because we had comps available, and they did a very small amount of gambling. A couple hours for him at a craps table with an average wager of around $25. $12 on the 6, $12 on the 8. Maybe she ran $20 to $40 a night through a slot machine. I'm guessing, estimating, maybe it was a little more, maybe it was a little less. But that trip made them Premier Casino hosting customers. That made them my guests because they were there with us on our comps. So when we got ready to book the first MSC blackjack cruise, MSC looked at that play that they did on a 3-night Royal Caribbean cruise and comped them 7 nights in a balcony cabin. A few weeks ago, the ladies decided that the 4 of us should do a couples trip somewhere for a couple nights. And I suggested Seneca Allegheny because we have a relationship there. And I asked the partners at Premier Casino Hosting to book that for us. And the request was denied, not because of us as players, but because there was a musical act performing on the property the second night of our proposed stay, and the property was fully sold out. They were fully booked. But when they said they couldn't host us for those nights because they were sold out, they asked if we would consider going to Seneca Niagara instead. We would have to drive another 30 minutes to the property, but honestly, I consider the Niagara property an upgrade over the very nice Allegheny property as it is. Just simply because there is more to do in the area. There's a few more restaurants on the property, and there's more things to do there, obviously, with Niagara Falls. The extra 30-minute drive was no big deal. We were happy to change our request and slightly adjust our plans. And that request came back with no numbers on it, no prices. Just a confirmation of a room for each couple. And so I said to my boss, I went back to Michael and I said, our friends are being overcomped here. They were hoping for the casino rate. They don't mind playing. But they've been friends of ours for a long time, and I don't want any surprises. I don't want anyone pressuring them on the second night of the stay to increase their play. I don't want to put that on them. They are just learning how this works. This comp is too large. And Michael's response was, the Seneca Nation understands that. They understand the players involved. They ask you to change your plans. You did them a favor. They are happy with the comps as they are. No one will be upset with their play. Go have fun. And so we did, and we did. We did go, and we did have fun. Think about that. These folks played a relatively small amount of play. They would have had to book and pay for those rooms themselves if they wanted to go. But with a couple text messages, their allies, me and the people I work for, were able to get them comps at a very nice resort that I'm going to tell you about a little later. A very nice property in very nice rooms. A final note on how, as your host, we provide benefits by being allies. As a couple, my wife and I went to Seneca Allegheny a couple of months ago so I could play in a blackjack tournament. We had played there a couple of times a few years prior, but had not been back any time recently. It had just been out of our rotation. We had no points. We had no status. We had no anything. When we walked into the hotel and did our check-in, they gave us new players cards. And I noticed that Mrs. TRG's was purple in color and mine was black in color. So when we got to the room, I went on the website and discovered that this was a top tier card with this brand. So I sent a text out to the guys and I said, did one of you do this? I mean, thank you very much. This is really very nice. This is really very helpful. And the partner said, no, they didn't do that. But that was probably just the tribe that likes working with our company. So the on-site contact probably just did that as a little favor, just a little favor because they like us. In other words, exactly what allies do. Exactly the benefits of having friends and allies and relationships as our wisdom teaches us to do. It's just a little favor. They just threw me their top tier card just because they threw me their top tier card. And I assumed at the time, and this was back in September, but I assumed at the time that it would be good for the weekend or maybe until the end of the month. It was at the end of their reward cycle was coming up. I didn't expect this to last very long. So I was really, really pleasantly surprised to get to Seneca, Niagara, be given a new card for the new year when I checked in and see that it was also a black card. A card that at this property let me walk up to the casino bar and get free drinks by request. A card that let me skip lines and receive discounts on food at restaurants. A card that is so highly regarded that you need to hear this story. We go to the bar and we're going to get drinks on our second night. And the plan is for me to grab drinks for myself and Mrs. TRG using this wonderful black card because they're comped. And then we're going to coach Lady Mac and Professor Porsche through the very important casino skill of playing video poker just long enough to get a cocktail. Very, very important video poker skill. Very, very important. So we're going to teach them this because they're beginners and they don't know. We don't want them paying for their drinks when they could just, play a couple hands of video poker, slow play, grab some cocktails, learn a new skill. That's the plan. So I grab our drinks and we find them machines and we talk them through how to find the game they want in the machine. We're being very deliberate. We're being very slow. We're waiting for the bartender to come by and take their orders. And they place their drink orders at Raspberry Absolute and Sprite, and we talk through things, and we play a hand, and the drinks arrive, and the bartender says, that'll be $22. And I said, I'm sorry, I think this was my mistake. I thought drinks were comped for players. And he says, well, they are, but that's only well drinks, not absolute. And I realized my mistake. I realized instantly where I had messed up. And I said, oh, that's my bad. I misunderstood. Can I use this? And I show him the black card, and his eyes get really big, and he goes, oh, yeah, sure, I'm so sorry. Of course. It's small stuff. It's minor stuff. But all of this is small stuff, right? All of this is minor stuff. The food discount, the comped cocktails, it's all small stuff as dollar amounts. But I am playing low house advantage games and trying to win at the end of a month or the end of a trip. Little things that improve our comps by having allies, or improve our winnings by turning dealers into allies, or by getting us comped drinks that we would otherwise pay for. Anything we do to move that value line just a little bit is how, doing casino combat, we overcome the small house advantage that we're accepting. Those little things, those little ways of getting an advantage are what we need to offset the advantage that we're giving them on the actual wagers. And that is the value of having allies, whether it is a dealer pointing out a machine, whether that is a pit boss pointing out the rules of a game, whether that is access to an independent host, whether it's me and my company or someone else that can help give you just a little extra advantage, a little less expensive room, a comped meal, access to a lounge where there's food and drink, All those little things. A comp that maybe your play doesn't quite justify, but they're going to take care of you anyway because they like us and they're helping us. Well, that's what allies are, folks. People that like you and help you. All right. Next, we are going to evaluate that small house advantage idea in a core concept segment. In general, 3-2 blackjack played with basic strategy provides the lowest house advantage in most casinos most of the time. We're going to exclude poker there, lower house advantage, there's no house advantage. We're going to exclude sports betting, lower no house advantage. Those games are not games, those wagers are not wagers that generally provide tier credits and reward credits. And one of the core concepts of casino combat is to make very low house advantage wagers that earn tier credits and reward credits. Maybe a lower house advantage at a few very rare, very hard to find video poker pay table machines. You don't see those very often. You can actually get to a no house advantage game, but they've pretty much eliminated those machines. They exist a few places, but in general, 3-2 blackjack with basic strategy, the lowest possible house advantage. But that house advantage can change a great deal. Just selecting blackjack is good. Selecting blackjack with some purpose and some strategy where it applies is better. And I wanted to use the blackjack tables at the Plaza today to illustrate how even within a single casino, the house advantage can be very different at different tables. Table selection at the Plaza came down to more than just is it blackjack. The Plaza had 2 blackjack tables open all the time and a third table that then opened fairly quickly, and then another 3 tables that opened gradually during the day, often for a total of 6 in the early afternoon, late afternoon, early evening. They all paid 3-2. All of them paid 3-2. The first always open table was a 3-2 continuous shuffle machine with a $15 minimum all the time. When I was there, they hit on all soft 17s. You could double any 2 cards. You could split and then double after a split. Very standard rules, the kind of rules we would expect to find a lot of places. The second always open table was labeled Most Liberal 21. With a $10 minimum. And Most Liberal 21 had some very, very interesting rules. Blackjack paid even money. That's horrible. Except for a suited blackjack, which paid 2-1. So if you got a blackjack that was a king of hearts and an ace of spades, well, that was even money. But if you got a king of hearts and an ace of hearts, that paid 2-1. So a $10 wager paid 20. Total of 30 that you get to pull off the table. And players could double on any 2, 3, or 4 cards, both before and after splitting. Surrender was permitted, and aces could be split, hit, or re-split. A player who achieved a 6-card hand totaling 21 automatically wins. Or 21 or less, actually, automatically wins. That's known as the 6-card Charlie. You do not find that rule very often. The game is dealt from a continuous shuffle machine using 6 decks. Now, despite the name, Most Liberal 21 is not actually a super player-friendly game. The house advantage is approximately 1.33%, an expected loss of $1.33 per 100 wagered. That is a worse house advantage for the player than the other machine right beside it. But it sounds good, doesn't it? Doesn't it sound great? I can double any 2, 3, or 4 cards. If I get 6 cards, I win automatically. It sounds attractive. The name sounds attractive. The rules sound attractive. It's a $10 game. They're increasing the house's advantage. The third table, which opened each day in the afternoon, was a hand-shuffled 2-deck shoe game at a $25 minimum during my visit. I understand that it goes up to $50 a lot of times on weekend evenings, but when I was there, it was always a $25 game. Most two-deck games, when I see a double-deck game, it is almost always a pitch game where the dealer tosses the cards to the player's face down. And the rules on splits and doubles are often more limited than a traditional 6 or 8 deck shoe. Often double limits are placed on when you can double. Sometimes only 10s and 11s can be doubled. Resplits are often limited. Doubles after splits are often limited. Those rule changes from a shoe game are often justified or explained away by the house by saying, we only have limited cards available. Well, there's only limited cards available because most of the time on those hand shuffled games, they're cutting out a full deck to protect the game against card counters. But the Plaza ran their double-deck shoe game more like a regular 4 or 6 or 8 deck shoe. And they had a little notch in the shoe, and so they were only cutting out about a quarter of one deck. Very, very fair game. They ran this game like it was a standard 6 or 8 deck game in terms of splits and doubles. As I said, an incredibly fair game. With only 2 decks, there was just not a lot of opportunity for really, really strange random things to happen. You were not getting large clumps of small cards because there are only 8 of each small cards. And if things did start to get a little sideways, did start to get a little squirrely, the cut card was never very far away and a shuffle was coming. Now, I will admit, I did not do a lot of 3-chip positive exits at this table because I just never got that far. I'd get to the end of a shoe, and I'd have a 3 to 5 unit win stack, and I would just pocket it. Or I'd have a 6 unit win stack, and I'd be -1 or -3 units, and I'd just regroup, pocket the win, record it, and start the next shoe again and again and again. Now, the crazy part, or perhaps to me the craziest part about this table, was the side bet. The side bet on this table was Lucky Ladies. And in Lucky Ladies, the big payouts, the big wins are when the player has 2 Queen of Hearts. And if you have 2 Queen of Hearts and the house has a blackjack, it pays like 1,000 to 1. Someone did not think this through. The table was put in. The game was probably a 6 or 8 deck game. They made it a 2 deck game. They didn't change the felt. You are trying to get 2 Queen of Hearts to get the good payouts, and there's only 2 Queen of Hearts in the entire shoe. It's tough enough to get 2 Queen of Hearts together in an 8 deck game, let alone almost impossible in a 2 deck game with only 2 things available. That side bet was not a very friendly bet, despite the fact that it was a very, very friendly game for me as a player, for us as players. The other tables that were open in the evenings as the evening progresses were standard 6-deck continuous shuffle games, 3 to 2, hit all soft 17s, very, very playable, very reasonable. So if you're walking into the plaza looking for blackjack, you have plenty of choices. But if you're a knowledgeable player and you really analyze what's being offered, there was a clear first choice table if your bankroll supported a $25 unit size. All the games offered a low house advantage, with nothing more than the kind of out of line 1.33%, but some were as low as 0.66%. And then that one double deck game was all the way down to 0.40, 40 cents per 100. And the placement of the cut card and the number of decks made it a vastly superior low house advantage wager, which is what our core concepts teach us we are looking for. But it takes that knowledge, it takes that awareness, it takes doing a little thought to decide this of the 6 games, this is the game I want to be playing. Let's do a travel segment next. I'll round out my experiences at both Seneca Niagara and the Plaza just a little bit more for you. I started my week of travel with a couple's trip to Seneca Niagara with both rooms comped as we discussed earlier. Both Seneca Allegheny and Seneca Niagara are beautiful properties, just physically beautiful in terms of the amenities, in terms of the buildings themselves. The finishes and decorative touches are among the best anywhere, with lots of attention to small details, as well as lots of use of wood and stone and tile. And the service everywhere was just incredibly good. Everyone, everywhere, clearly cared about doing their job and doing it well. The level of hospitality provided was absolutely incredible. It's been a very long time since I was consistently treated that well in all aspects of a multi-night stay. Caesar's Palace, Vegas, not a chance I get treated this well. Caesar's Atlantic City, nope, it's got that East Coast, we really don't care. Right? Their 10 is a Midwest 6 when it comes to hospitality. Bellagio, nope. I've stayed all those places, and I'm not complaining about any of those places. I'm just telling you those are C+ experiences compared to what we got at Seneca Niagara Falls. Just top notch. It's just incredible. Absolutely amazing. This 20-year-old resort is so well maintained that I started to notice that it was difficult to find so much as a ding on a baseboard, a scratch on a wall in a public space. They were constantly cleaning everything. They were constantly maintaining just everything. And until this stay, I have said that Ocean in Atlantic City has the best standard rooms of any property I've ever stayed at, followed closely by the MGM Grand in Detroit, Michigan. And Seneca Niagara has forced me to revise that list. By a very slim margin, I would say I consider the standard rooms at Seneca Niagara the nicest I've ever stayed in. The standard room at Ocean, very, very nice and a bit larger, and the bathrooms are just a little larger by a small amount. The room itself and the bathroom, a little bit more square footage. But the details, the woodwork, the tile work in a standard room at Seneca Niagara are just simply superior in every way to what Ocean offers, of course, in my opinion. And that's not to knock on Ocean at all. Those rooms are amazing, and I feel fortunate to stay there any chance I get. But Seneca Niagara was just built to a higher standard. It really was. All of our meals, from the simplest burger or breakfast to the fine dining comped dinner we enjoyed at the Italian restaurant, were incredibly well executed. The service was on point. The fine dining experience, the wait staff was there when you would think they should be there, and they weren't there the rest of the time. They took care of everything. It was timely, it was quick, but it wasn't intrusive. The indoor pool complex had 2 hot tubs, was perfect after a chilly tour of the Niagara Falls. It was early November. It's not prime Niagara Falls viewing weather. It was great to come back from that and enjoy the hot tubs and enjoy the pool. Just a very, very well done pool complex. A lot of really impressive tile work, a lot of really impressive tile inlays. The casino was large, had a great selection of slot machines. It's divided into 2 actual casinos, a smoking casino and a non-smoking casino. So whichever your preference is, you have it available. And the tables and the limits in both casinos were very, very similar. Blackjack was all 3-2 with limits as low as $15 during the day, but those quickly rose to $25 and in some cases $50 in the evenings. The craps tables were very hard, very solid, with a $15 minimum anytime I looked. There were no side bets offered on any of the craps tables. There was no all tall small, there was no fire, there was no repeater, just standard craps tables. The property offers plenty of restaurants and bars, has a large auditorium that features oldies musical acts and comedians on a regular basis. And as we left, I told Mrs. TRG, especially with the addition of that wonderful black card that I told you about that's valid through next September, we need to get back to that property a lot more often. If Niagara Falls is drivable for you from where you are, I highly, highly recommend planning a trip to enjoy the falls and this wonderful property where we would be happy to represent you. We would be happy to set you up there. Truly, just a great experience. I can't say enough about it all the way around. And that would be true if we had paid for the rooms. I'd be saying exactly the same things if the rooms hadn't been comped. There's just nothing bad I can say about this property. In terms of results, we played blackjack and plenty of slots. We didn't play any craps. The craps tables were always full. We took lots of small losses the first night before and after dinner. But I went on a little half shoe run with 6 units at a $50 minimum to finish up the evening. And just quick, everything went right. Everything went fast. I was playing heads up with the dealer, and we managed to be back to even at the end of the first night. And again, the next day, we took a bunch of small losses as we played a little here and a little there after our time in the hot tub. And at one point, I was actually, before a big double, I was actually at that point of this is either going to work or I'm making that trip to the ATM. But I won that big double. I won a couple more hands. I got my buy-in for the table back. I made a little money, but we were still down as we approached our final table of the trip, what we knew would be our final table of the trip. Lady Mac and Professor Porsche had wrapped things up. They had gone to bed, and things started to go right. We endured some truly horrendously bad blackjack play. It was Friday night, and people were drinking and playing, and they were playing poorly, and they were drinking well. And we saw things like doubling a hard 7 against a dealer's 6 at a table where the dealer stands on all 17. So there's not even a guarantee with a 6 that the house is going to have to draw a card. But here we are doubling our 7. But we tolerated that horrible play as long as we did, because while I was just kind of holding my own, I'm finishing a shoe and I'm up 1 or 2 units, or I'm regrouping and I'm down 1 unit. Mrs. TRG was finishing those same shoes up 6 or 8 units, and we're pocketing that and we're recording that, and she's doing it again. And she's feisty for whatever reason. She was feisty. She was just shooting daggers at people over their dumb plays. She was calling out their stupidity. She was pointing out that she had a big bet out and they were barely betting anything, and they weren't going, and she was running the table, and she was running it well, and we finished just a bit more than even. We covered our expenses for the trip, barely, but we covered our expenses for the trip with the comped room and the comped fine dining dinner. We had our profit. We took our profit in the comps and the gifts, and breaking even with expenses was more than fine. So we drove back from Niagara Falls. I'm home for about 36 hours, and then I'm on a plane out to Las Vegas because my boss's Premier Casino Hosting recently became the first independent hosting company to sign a hosting contract with the Plaza on Fremont Street in Las Vegas. We did a soft open event with them, so as reps, we could understand the property, see how it works, understand our options and our choices. I've stayed at the D on Fremont Street before. I like the area. I like how close together everything is. I like the great rules. I like the great limits. I'm okay with smaller. I'm okay with less grandiose than the Strip to get walkable, low limits, good rules. It was a gambling trip. It was a trip to see the property, not to see the city of Las Vegas. In fact, I'm a little off script here. I'll have to get back on track, but I am so jaded admitting, and this is not bragging, this is just admitting the truth. I am so jaded. It was just a work trip. I realized that. I grabbed my cab. We start making the drive, and we get about halfway to Fremont Street. We get about halfway to where we're going, and I realize that we're going all down the back part of the Strip. We're going down I-15 there, and I'm in my phone. I'm returning text messages. I'm returning emails. We are driving through Las Vegas with all kinds of stuff to see, the Luxor Pyramid and all of that. And I'm not even paying attention. I was definitely in work mode. I definitely was not in tourist mode. As I said, I like Fremont Street. I like how calm and playable everything is, particularly early in the morning. I like the fact that my action, which is meaningless at most places in most properties on the Strip, is really important to most places on Fremont Street. Oscar's Steakhouse at the Plaza is amazing and worth a visit, even if you're not staying at the property. I am not a fan, unfortunately. I'm not saying mean things here. I'm just telling the truth. I am not a fan of Guy Fieri's Hash House A Go-Go at Tropicana in Atlantic City. We've eaten there. It's only open for breakfast and brunch. The portions are really large, and because the portions are really large and it's Atlantic City on the boardwalk, the prices match the portions. As a couple, we're either eating the same breakfast and paying for an extra plate, or we're wasting a lot of food that we just can't finish with our appetites at our age. The Hash House A Go-Go at the Plaza corrects all those things from my point of view. The portion sizes are appropriate. It's open for all 3 meals of the day. The prices match the portion size. A great option at any time of day. Certainly a great option for breakfast. No complaints on that front. There's a Pink Box donut location on property. First time I've had them. Those donuts are absolutely amazing. I would make a stop just for the donuts. The casino at the Plaza was small, but not smoky. As I described, I'd go back just for the double-deck blackjack again. I'd make it a point. The rooms are fine. They are decorated in a retro mid-century modern style, and that is echoed in the heated pool complex in the way that it's laid out. And I'm not going to brag about the fits and finishes the way I did about the rooms at Seneca Niagara, but the room was clean. Everything worked. The size was adequate. Everything was in good condition. The room felt retro, but it did not feel dated or outdated. The bathroom was fine. The bathroom was great. It wasn't small. It wasn't cramped. It was well laid out. I would willingly stay there again. Perhaps or more important, I would book Mrs. TRG there with me and not be concerned that she would not be happy with the room or the accommodations or anything about the property. Results-wise, I gotta be honest. I met the bear. I met a cousin of the bear, a different bear. I'm gonna tell you about it. The bear has bear friends, and I ran into one of them. During the entire trip, I would play craps to hang out with the PCH crew, and I would lose most of my buy-in, and then I'd loop around to a blackjack table and recover what I had lost. I would wander over to Circa to play some slots, and I would lose, and then win the money back playing blackjack. On the last night of the stay, most of the PCH folks had left for the airport. I'm just now solo. I'm by myself. I was down about 1 buy-in from a combination of craps and slots, and I wandered over to Circa for some free bet blackjack. And I had a really nice run. I was making the side bet, and I caught a couple of hands with multiple splits and doubles that accumulated a lot of gold coins, which are the trigger for good side bet payouts. I had all my money back. I had a nice profit for the trip after expenses. I'd had a really nice run. It was early. I was bored. I was by myself. In a situation where I might have said to my wife, hey, let's see if we can find a show. Oh, hey, let's go over and just buy some drinks with this money up on that bar at Golden Nugget and just watch the world go by. Might have done all those things in a different situation. I didn't. And maybe I should have. So as I'm playing some video poker at the Plaza, I had a random thought, a thought that ultimately I would regret. As I said, I'm by myself, nothing really to do, no one really to do anything with, and I've got Circus money in my pocket and a blackjack game that I've been beating pretty consistently for a couple of days. A blackjack table where I get a commission on my own action. I was feeling indestructible, a feeling I usually recognize. I really do, but I didn't in this case. I've only been doing this casino hosting thing for about a year. I've only been getting paid on my own action for about a year. I'm still getting it sorted out. So instead of calling it a night early, instead of finding something to do that didn't involve putting money at risk, I instead decided that I was gonna, instead of doing play all day, that would have been a great answer, right? Do play all day on a craps machine. I decided to go cycle money through the blackjack table to add to my commission check. And of course, the bear showed up. This table that had been super reliable, super consistent for the whole 3-4 days that I had been there. I have a tier 1 bet, a tier 1 2-unit bet split, and then doubled, and I draw good cards, and the dealer draws a 5-card 20 and beats all my hands. Not a big deal. I just go to tier 2, and I'll win that back in a couple hands. I've been doing it all the time. It's no big deal. I'm not worried about it. Tier 2, 2-unit bet, similar need, have to put more money out to split, have to put more money out to double, had to pull a little money out of my pocket to make that bet, and it goes south. And that's all the profit from the Circa win and a little bit more. I took a men's room break and decided to just do one more buy-in and get back to even, as I'd done that over and over the whole trip, and then I'd call it a night. And I battled for several hours, never getting back to even for the trip, coming close, then sliding back a bit. I didn't lose that final buy-in, but I didn't win anything with that money either. Eventually, I accepted that the bear had won. I called it a night. From the Plaza's point of view, from their records, it is certainly going to look like they really beat me up that last night. From my point of view, I carried winnings from Circa, and I donated them to our partners at the Plaza. I guess I was a good ally if you want to see it that way. I lost and spent about 2 days' pay on the trip, not counting the airfare. I had won the money for the airfare prior to buying the tickets over a month ago. I'm fine with that. The room and the food comps covered most of the losses. In total, the two trips together, kind of a wash. Kind of a wash when it's all said and done. Maybe a small loss. So, in big picture, it's a casino combat win for the week. The win is mostly just barely, pun intended, enough to cover things and to cover expenses, but a tough lesson learned about being a host, feeling indestructible, and foolishly trying to increase my commission on my own play when I really didn't need to. I found a new breed of bear. I need to remember to avoid that breed of bear in the future. Good trips all in all. What a wonderful kind of, I say a casino enhanced lifestyle. That's a casino enhanced lifestyle. Go with our good friends to spend time at Niagara Falls, have wonderful meals, wonderful time together. See a wonder of the world, wonderful comped rooms, wonderful comped meals, as I said, then a plane ticket that I paid for with winnings, and a work event, admittedly a work event. I was working on stuff with Nakatomi Tony the whole time. I was booking reservations for people the whole time. I was doing stuff for clients the whole time, both IT clients and casino clients. And I was playing and I was day drinking and I was evaluating tables and I was learning about restaurants. So a quote, work trip. What a wonderful lifestyle to be able to leave by virtue of being good at the game of casino gambling. Okay, let's adjourn to the virtual VIP lounge for some sips and a quick story. This has gone just a bit long. I think looks like we're going to be about Atlantic City Empress's first choice for an episode length. She really likes it when I can clock this at about an hour and 30 minutes. That's the perfect commute length for her. She's said that in the past. I think her wishes are going to come true on this one. Looks like that's where we're going to time out. All right, let's go.
A little bit of the bubbly.
Welcome to the most must-listen-to segment in casino podcasting, the Virtual VIP Lounge. Our lounge is open, and we have the best virtual everything virtually all the time. The best virtual food and drink served anywhere on the interwebs, guaranteed or your money back. I have got a blueberry muffin here. I have got some non-mimosa OJ here. Certainly a wonderful feast if it was offered to me in a virtual VIP or in a VIP lounge, say at Bally's, with great views of the ocean, great views of the boardwalk. If you can, press pause, pour a beverage. It's the right time of day. If it's the right time of day and you're not driving, make it an adult beverage. Join me, have a drink. That is always one of the best parts of being in a VIP lounge in the real world. Just a quick little story today from my local casino. I've admittedly been going a little less and playing smaller there recently. I've kind of been applying the core concept and being fine with a small win or a small loss and walking away and coming back the next day, making sure my level of play matches the level of comps that they're providing. And when I sat down, I recognized the pit boss. I sat down at the blackjack table and I realized the pit boss is a relatively new hire that was part of a new crew expansion that they brought in, a training wave that they had at this property. I'd seen him a couple of times, but never been at a table of his. And so I told him and the dealer that I was going to wait for the next shoe, and he asked for my player's card so he could put me in the computer. So I slid it over, and as I did, I held up 5 fingers and said, I'll be coming in for 5. And he stopped and looked for a minute, I think maybe taking in the rings and the bracelets and that kind of stuff. And he said, I'm thinking this isn't your first rodeo. And I said, nope, not my first rodeo, not even the first bull for the day. I'd previously been at the horse track playing some free slot play and picking up a gift card. And so as he's saying all this, I thought, let me just play off of that. He's recognized that I have some knowledge and I have some experience. Let's see if I can kind of play off that. So I said, let's call it an average of 75 a hand when you're putting things in. That'll probably be fair to everyone. And he said, a $75 average? It's only a quarter game. And I said, yeah, but I'll be up and down between 25 and 100. $75 average should be fair. And he said, oh, okay, good luck. It was a bit back and forth, but it was back and forth. But it was back and forth, up and down, a unit or two here, a unit or two there, regroup, maybe pocket one unit and record a 1 unit win. I never got to the second tier of the rapier that I was playing. Never made a bet larger than $50. I assumed I would. I gave him the $75 figure in good faith. I didn't intend to take advantage of anybody. There's no Mitchin involved here. This was not me trying to be devious or tricky or any of that kind of stuff. I gave him my best information. It just didn't go the way I expected it. So as I'm coloring up, a pit boss that I've known for years, Captain Courageous, comes by and he's checking my color up. And I said, oh, hey, how did he have me rated? And he checks and he says, he had you at 80 a hand. I'll bump that up for you a little bit, TRG. We'll make that 100. It's good to see you again. And the dealer nodded to him and agreed that $100 number was right, was correct. One of the skills that I've really been working on, one of the skills of mine that's been improved from hanging around with Equine Ensign, is to always negotiate my average wager. And that really worked well in this particular case, right? It really did. And we're back to all the themes, or many of the themes from this episode, from episode 180, right? Have allies. Captain Courageous is an ally. Be tough, be strong, be wiser, be cool, be calm, stay together, right? That's all of that. I was wise. I understand how casinos work. I was smart. I was strong. I was calm. All those things, all of that stuff from that song, all the themes brought together. Please tip your waitresses, tip your bartenders, tip your dealers. If you have a host, tip your host. Remember your casino wisdoms. Don't tip away your wins. I have spoken. Everything you heard here is true from a certain point of view. In 10 years, we may find out I was wrong about all of this. It's time for leaving, and I hope you understand I was born a Ramblin' Man. Love it, hate it, it don't matter. Please share with your family and friends. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you for listening. As always, thank you for the gift of your time. Stick around. The best part of the podcast is next, the Casino Combat Blues.
For Atlantic City Empress, Casino Combat's ace. There are profits in the casino tonight. I can feel it in my bones. I had a premonition. You should probably play alone. I know the house has that advantage, but that's part of the thrill. If we follow the core concepts, the chips begin to spill. So baby, here's your player's card. Put your bankroll in your hand. Use just some of that money now. Do it just the way we planned. Just follow the core concepts, and you could win several grand. Well, it's good if it goes down like that. Don't have to play to lose. It's gambling as a business. The Casino Combat Blues. Casino Combat Blues. The a dirty